We are very pleased to introduce you to our activities in the field of plurilingual learning and training. Our contribution addresses first the pluralistic approaches in general, before we then take a look at the plurilingual education at Saarland University. Then we invite you to take a look at the new digital EuroComCenter. It is dedicated to the promotion of European intercomprehension and plurilingual training. The virtual training environment is essentially based on the cross-linguistic approach of the 7 C's that you might already know. We will briefly present them before we are sharing a microstudy dedicated to an important aspect of the transfer-based intercomprehension work. Intercomprehension is one of the pluralistic approaches that are based on activities that include several linguistic and cultural varieties, abandoning the perspective on languages as separate unities with their plurilingual paradigm by decompartmentalizing language teaching and learning. The intercomprehensive training fosters the plurilingual competence by systematically building bridges across alleged linguistic boundaries. The framework of reference for pluralistic approaches to languages and cultures defines and exemplifies standards for pluralistic approaches, implement them in classrooms in order to develop the plurilingual and intercultural competences of learners of all subjects. The term pluralistic approaches to languages and cultures refers to didactic approaches which involve the use of more than one or several varieties of languages or cultures simultaneously during the teaching process. Doing so, the FREPA complements and adds value to the common European framework of reference for languages. The 4 approaches that are the FREPA's subjects are language awareness, integrated didactic approaches, intercomprehension between related languages, and intercultural approaches. The FREPA framework, develops the concrete concepts of the plurilingual and pluricultural competence promoted by the common European framework of reference for languages. The concept of intercomprehension is manifold, starting with the definition of intercomprehension as the capacity to understand other languages without having learned them formally. In an overall perspective, intercomprehension can be seen as a natural phenomenon, a spontaneous practice in multilingual communication situations or activities. Dwyer understands intercomprehension as a form of communication in which each person uses the language in which they are most comfortable with and understands that of the other. With this in mind, in our understanding, intercomprehension is an approach for learning and teaching several foreign languages simultaneously, based on the learner's previous knowledge and skills, such as using the cognate languages as bridges to the target languages. At Saarland University, pluralistic approaches have been systematically incorporated into the curricula for French and Spanish teacher training. The integrated didactic approaches and particularly intercomprehension are taught, applied and further developed in our Department of Romance Languages. The students are introduced to the theoretical framework based on the EuroCom approach. They are trained in intercomprehension practice and they acquire receptive competences in the Romance language family. By dealing with the approach in practice, they raise their plurilingual awareness and plurilingual learning awareness and the other key competences. Furthermore, in the context of specific project seminars, the students can, on their own, experience plurilingual teaching at school. The EuroCom concept of European intercomprehension, it as plurilingual teaching and learning, has been first compiled over 20 years ago by Horst Klein and Till Stegmann in the so-called 7 C's. They provide the basis for the interlingual transfer between cognate languages within the Romance language family. By giving a synthesis of the linguistic basis of intercomprehension, observing the parallels and regularities within the linguistic systems of Romance languages, a concept that also works in the other European language families, the Germanic and the Slavic languages. Here we have Klein and Stegmann's 7 C's. They range from the lexical, grammatical, morphological, and morphosyntactical levels to the graphic and phonemic correspondences of the Romance languages. This fundamental research covers the declarative linguistic knowledge that is essential for the interlingual transfer between cognate languages. Intercomprehension didactics are mainly based on the similarities between neighboring languages. They can also go beyond language families. They aim at establishing relationships and links between different languages at different linguistic levels. Intercomprehensive activities are based on a wide range of strategies linked to different dimensions and types of knowledge involved in the intercomprehensive processes. We are very proud to show you the first version of our new digital learning platform. It is based on the EuroCom concept and offers various content training opportunities for cross-language teaching and learning. The training environments are based on the plurilingual paradigm's core concepts such as cognitive learning, autonomous learning, integrated didactics, intercultural learning, language awareness, and language learning awareness. Our new learning platform offers various opportunities. An introduction to the key principles in the methodology chapter, an introduction to the transfer inventories of the Romance languages, the 7 C's, plurilingual training rooms for different target rooms, so far for French, Italian, and Spanish. A separate room is addressing intercomprehension at school and in teacher training, which is essential for linking academic theory with teaching practice and for networking with practitioners and schools. All our offers are open access, freely accessible. English and French versions are projected for the moment. So far the theoretical background, and now another view on our activities. My assistant Max will introduce you to one of our micro-studies on international vocabulary.
Thank you, Christina. Okay, as for the methodology, we conducted 2 online self-evaluation surveys with 233 words, which means that we chose 10 words of the international vocabulary per letter. In the second group, we had 32 participants, in the first group 16. And we also looked at background variables, including degree, age, professional career, languages, and reading. You can see here an overview of the backgrounds the different participants had. As for the degree, the most part of our participants passed their Abitur, and the smaller part, Mittlere Reife and Hauptschulabschluss, and the smallest part of our participants already have a degree, a university degree. because we chose to conduct this survey in our seminars. The most participants are aged between 20 and 25 years, but we also have a bigger part of participants that are from 50 years onwards. The professional careers, those who were participants of our seminars were of course students, but we also had a few students with college degrees. And the non-academic people we sent this survey were mostly nurses or secretaries or people who take care of children in kindergartens. So their language profiles are as diverse. We have few participants with more than 3 languages, even one with 4 languages. And which was particularly interesting is that one participant chose Saarlandian as their first language. And the last background variable is reading. 47% of our participants clicked that they read often, and 16 clicked that they only read, that they actually never read. Okay, the results. Our participants of the second survey recognized 74.62% of all words. Standard deviation is 11.14. You can see them here ranked by percentage. The participants who recognized the most words had over 90%. The one with the lowest word recognition count was slightly under 50%. There were several international vocabulary that were recognized by all subjects. The sum of those vocab was 22%, and those words recognized by 100% of the participants include absolut, absolvent, Ballett, Fabrik, Ignorierung, and more. In total, 52 words. And some words that were rarely recognized and only recognized by very few people include Decameron with 6.25%, Campanile with 9.38%, and words like Abdikation, Nafta, Punktion, Vademecum, and Cenacle. The other words that were rarely recognized were slightly over 15%. We only choose to include those that were recognized by less than 15% of all participants. Okay, now we looked at correlations between word recognition and background variables, and the most interesting one that we found is that the first third of our ranking clicked that they read often, whereas the last third of our ranking clicked that they read seldom. So this might hint at a correlation between reading and international vocabulary recognition. To compare non-academic speakers to academic speakers, we didn't find a significant correlation. The non-academic group recognized 73.63% of all words, whereas the academic group recognized around 3% more. We later subdivide the academic group into our students, into different student groups, and those again into linguistic students and non-linguistic students. It might be interesting here to compare the linguistic student group of 2021 to the non-linguistic student group of 2021, because the linguistics student group had around 15% plus in word recognition and to show you a comparable result of our student group from 2020. Those linguistic students recognized slightly more words, but only 2%, which means that there were no significant changes during these two cohorts, between those two cohorts. To now summarize our findings, we could not find any significant effects of age on IV comprehension. We didn't include this slide here, but we checked whether older people recognized more words, which was not the case, when in fact it were younger people with linguistics background who recognized many words. Also, there was no significant effect of educational level on international vocabulary comprehension. And the same goes for the professional background. For example, we included international vocabulary that is common to medical professions, and the medical staff sometimes didn't recognize it, and sometimes the non-medical staff did. So there's no significant effect here. As for the effect of language knowledges, in our ranking we found out that the upper third spoke many languages, and the same goes for reading. The upper third read a lot, so these two might indicate that knowing many languages and reading a lot is conducive to recognizing international vocabulary. But it is important to mention here that we only conducted a micro survey with some 48 participants in total, so a bigger survey must be conducted to actually corroborate these findings. To now relate the study to our overall game, so plurilingual competence, our microstudy on the international vocabulary belongs to the potential transfer resources, and we analyzed how one such transfer resource is used, and what we found is that it's highly individual, and that if and to what degree learners can harness such a transfer resource depends on various factors such as cognitive disposition, language awareness, autonomous learning, strategy training, and motivation. As a result of our microstudy, we could analyze whether reading training fosters the ability to harness such transfer resources. And to now wrap it up, Christina will take over again. And thank you very much on my part, because she will conclude.
With the intercomprehension approach, we can cross and overcome existing or alleged linguistic and cultural borders by using the learner's own resources. While the EuroCom didactics are mainly based on the similarities between neighboring languages, they can also go beyond language families, as our example shows. In this sense, knowledge in English already present can be used to its full potential to learn to understand Romance languages. English is one of the bridges we use explicitly in our training settings. Furthermore, we are currently working with our colleagues from the Slavonic Studies Department of Saarland University on overcoming the borders between Romance and Slavic languages, a very promising project. To wrap it up, the most important issue of our activities is to raise awareness of the transfer inventories and resources by linking all the languages in teaching and learning. The official target languages, foreign languages, and those beyond, present in the classroom, the learners' brains and their hearts. Thank you very much for your attention.